I was in the middle of pitching our biggest campaign of the year when my phone buzzed. The boardroom went silent as I glanced down. It was Denise from security. "Miss Rodriguez, your family is in the lobby. They're saying there's an emergency about your grandmother." My hands went cold. I hadn't spoken to my family in 5 years, and my grandmother, the woman who raised me, had passed away 3 years ago. I watched her take her last breath in that hospital room while my parents were nowhere to be found. "I need 5 minutes," I told the board. My voice was steady, but my heart was racing. The elevator ride down felt endless. Every floor that passed, I thought about the last time I'd seen my parents. It was at my grandmother's funeral. My father had shown up drunk. My mother spent the entire service on her phone. My brother didn't come at all. The lobby doors opened, and there they were. My father, standing in his worn suit that probably hadn't been dry cleaned in months. My mother, clutching her designer purse, the one I'd bought her for Christmas 6 years ago, before I knew better. And my brother, Marcus, who I barely recognized. He'd gained weight, and there was something different about his eyes, harder. But it was the fourth person that made me stop. A man in an expensive suit, holding a leather briefcase. He smiled when he saw me, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Emma," my mother said, rushing toward me. "Oh, sweetheart, we've been so worried." I stepped back before she could touch me. "What are you doing here? Is that any way to greet your family?" My father's voice was slurred. 9 in the morning, and he was already drinking. Some things never changed. "I'm working. I have a presentation." "This is Richard Chen," the suited man interrupted, extending his hand. "I'm the family's attorney. We need to speak with you about your grandmother's estate." My grandmother's estate. The words hit me like ice water. My grandmother died 3 years ago. Everything was settled. "Actually," Richard said, his smile widening, "there were some discrepancies we've recently discovered concerning the distribution of assets. Specifically, a trust fund worth approximately $300,000 that should have been divided among all grandchildren." I looked at Marcus. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "That's not possible. Grandma left everything to me because I was the only one who manipulated an elderly woman," my father cut in. His words were sharp now, focused. "Who isolated her from her family? Who made her think we didn't care?" People in the lobby were starting to stare. "We need to take this upstairs," I said quietly. "Not here." "Actually," Richard said, "I think your CEO should be present for this conversation. We've already requested a meeting." My blood ran cold. "You did what?" "This involves potential embezzlement of family assets," Richard continued, his voice carrying across the lobby. "And given your position here, there may be a pattern of financial impropriety that your employer should be aware of." "That's insane." My phone buzzed again. This time it was my boss, Michael Chen, no relation to this Richard character, I hoped. "Emma, my office. Now." The elevator ride back up was a nightmare. My parents stood on one side, Richard on the other, and Marcus behind me. I could feel his presence like a weight on my shoulders. "You look good, Em," he said quietly. "Success suits you." I didn't respond. Michael's office was on the top floor. Corner view, glass walls, the kind of space that came with a title like Chief Operating Officer. I'd been in this office 100 times. Never like this. Michael was standing when we entered, his face carefully neutral. Next to him was Janet from HR and Robert, our head of legal. This was bad. "Miss Rodriguez," Richard began before I could speak, "my clients have discovered evidence that their mother's will was altered. Specifically, a trust fund of $300,000 was fraudulently transferred solely to Emma Rodriguez through undue influence and possible forgery." He placed a folder on Michael's desk. "These are copies of the original will, dated 2018, showing equal distribution among 3 grandchildren. And these are bank records showing the full transfer to Miss Rodriguez's personal account in 2022, shortly after her grandmother's death." I stared at the documents. They looked real. Official stamps, notary seals, everything. "This is fake," I said. "My grandmother left everything to me. I have the real will." "We also have testimony from the nursing home staff," Richard continued, "that Miss Rodriguez was the only family member allowed to visit in the final months, that she explicitly instructed staff to turn away other family members. Because they upset her." My voice was rising, and I forced it down. "Because every time they visited, they asked her for money. Because my father showed up drunk and made her cry. Because my mother only called when she needed something. Because Marcus—" I stopped. Marcus was looking at the floor. "Your grandmother had advanced dementia," Richard said softly. She was vulnerable, susceptible to manipulation. I took care of her, I said. I was there every single day. I held her hand when she died while they were— Where were you? My mother's voice cracked, real tears streaming down her face. Oscar-worthy performance. Marcus was in prison. Your father was in rehab. I was taking care of them. Who was supposed to take care of me? Michael cleared his throat. Emma, I think you should take a leave of absence while we sort this out. The words hit like a physical blow. You're suspending me? We're protecting the company, Robert said. If there are questions about your financial ethics, based on what? Fake documents and lies? Based on serious allegations from your family, Janet said. We need to investigate. They haven't spoken to me in 5 years. I was shouting now. They didn't come to Christmas. They didn't call on my birthday. But now 3 months after I get a $50,000 bonus, now they care about Grandma's will? The silence that followed was deafening. Richard's smile never wavered. Miss Rodriguez, my clients are prepared to settle this matter quietly. A simple transfer of the disputed funds, divided fairly among all beneficiaries. $200,000 to be split between your brother and your parents. You keep $100,000. No lawsuits, no police involvement, no publicity that might damage your career. He slid a document across the desk. All you have to do is sign. I looked at my family. My mother, crying. My father, righteous. Marcus, still staring at the floor. I looked at Michael. His face was stone. I looked at the settlement agreement. The words blurred. Then I laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes when you realize you've been playing chess while everyone else brought grenades. No, I said. Emma, my mother started. I said no. I pulled out my phone. Because 6 months ago, I hired a private investigator. The room went still. You want to talk about my grandmother's estate? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how my father has a second family in Nevada. 2 kids, both under 10. Let's talk about the $60,000 gambling debt he owes to Caesar's Palace. My father's face went white. Let's talk about how Marcus was released from prison 3 months ago after serving 4 years for wire fraud. Let's talk about how his lawyer here, Richard Chen, isn't actually a lawyer at all. He's Marcus's cellmate. And that bar number on his card? It belongs to a Richard Chen who practices family law in Sacramento and has no idea his identity is being used. I turned to Richard. His smile was gone. I have emails, I continued. Text messages. Financial records. I know about the fake nursing home testimonials. I know you paid someone to forge those bank documents. I know everything. You're bluffing, my father said. I wasn't. My phone buzzed. Right on schedule. I smiled. That's my actual lawyer. She's downstairs with the police, and she has someone I think you'll all want to see. The conference room door opened. My grandmother walked in. She was 84 years old, leaning on her walker, wearing the cardigan I'd bought her last Christmas. Very much alive. My mother actually gasped. Hello, Richard, my grandmother said. Or should I say Thomas? That's your real name, isn't it? Thomas Morrison. I remember you from when you and Marcus shared a cell. She moved slowly toward the desk, and I rushed to help her into a chair. Mom? My father whispered. You thought I was dead because you never visited. Her voice was sharp, clear. No dementia. There never had been. You thought Emma had stolen from me because that's what you would have done. Grandma Marcus started. Don't. She held up her hand. I know what you did. All of you. The real police arrived then. Not security. Actual LAPD detectives. Thomas Morrison? One of them said to Richard. You're under arrest for fraud, identity theft, and practicing law without a license. Richard Thomas tried to run. He didn't make it far. Marcus Rodriguez? You're in violation of your parole. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Marcus just stood there as they cuffed him. Finally, he looked at me. I'm sorry, Em, he said. I needed the money. I owe people. That's not my problem, I said. The detective turned to my father. Sir, you're wanted for questioning regarding illegal gambling activities and failure to pay child support in Nevada. My father's legs buckled. He actually collapsed into a chair. My mother was crying for real now. I didn't know, she kept saying. I didn't know they were going to do this. My grandmother snorted. You knew enough, Claire. You always know enough to be useful, but not enough to be responsible. The detective looked at me. Miss Rodriguez, we'll need a formal statement. Of course. As they led my brother and fake Richard out, Marcus looked back one more time. You could have helped me, he said. Family is supposed to help. Family is supposed to show up, I replied. You chose not to. After they left, it was just me, my grandmother, Michael, Janet, Robert, and my mother, who was still crying in the corner. Michael cleared his throat. Emma, I apologize. We should have trusted. You should have, I interrupted. I've worked here for 8 years. I've never taken a sick day. I've brought in $15 million in new business. And you were ready to suspend me because my family showed up with fake documents. He had the grace to look ashamed. I resign, I said, effective immediately. Emma, wait. I'll finish the campaign pitch. I'll do the handoff. But I'm done here. I looked at my grandmother. Ready to go? She nodded, and I helped her stand. My mother grabbed my arm as I passed. Emma, please. I'm still your mother. I didn't mean. You meant enough, I said, echoing my grandmother's words. You always mean just enough. I pulled my arm away gently and walked out. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new office. Corner view, but better than Michael's. I'd started my own marketing consultancy, and business was booming. My former company had called 3 times asking if I'd consult on their fall campaign. I'd referred them to my competitor each time. My phone buzzed. It was the detective who'd handled my case. Miss Rodriguez, I thought you'd want to know. Marcus took a plea deal. 3 years. Thomas got 5. Your father is still in Nevada dealing with his charges there. And my mother? No charges. She cooperated fully, turned over everything Marcus had told her. Of course she did, always knowing just enough to be useful. Thank you for letting me know, I said. I hung up and looked out my window at the Los Angeles skyline. My grandmother was in a beautiful assisted living facility now. Not a nursing home, a place with gardens and art classes and a chef who made her favorite foods. I visited every Sunday. We played cards and she told me stories about when she was young. Last week, she told me something I'd never known. Your mother called me, she said, after they arrested Marcus. I waited. She said you were cruel, that you'd turned your back on family. What did you tell her? I told her that you were the only family I had, the only one who showed up when showing up mattered. She reached across the table and took my hand. I told her that real family isn't about blood. It's about who holds your hand in the hospital, who shows up every Sunday, even when you're grumpy and difficult, who builds you a life worth living instead of taking from the life you've built. My eyes burned. I'm proud of you, sweetheart, she said. Your grandfather would have been proud too. That night, I got an email from Michael. The subject line read, "One more try." Inside was an offer. Partnership, equity, complete creative control. I smiled and hit delete. I'd built something better than what they could offer. Something that was mine. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a new client, a Fortune 500 company that wanted to discuss a 7-figure contract. I answered with a smile. This is Emma Rodriguez. How can I help you? And somewhere across town, in a minimum security prison, my brother was probably telling his story to anyone who would listen, about his sister who had everything, who could have helped him but chose not to. He'd never understand that I did help him. I helped him learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. When you think family is something you can weaponize. When you forget that the people you hurt are the same people who could have saved you. I helped teach him that actions have consequences, and that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building a life so successful that your enemy's failures become footnotes in your success story. My grandmother was right. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, and I'd finally found mine.